Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Vetting America, episode 26. We're live at the Attic Cafe in downtown Tampa. My name is Adam T. Cummings. I'm your host, and today's show features Master Sergeant Avery Skipalis in her 15th year in the United States Air Force, and she is currently founder and CEO of Skips Tactical Solutions, a firearms training company out of Tampa. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you coming out. I mean, this is exciting stuff. I haven't had I haven't had an active duty military person with a business on yet. So this is a really cool perspective that I don't think anybody at home has seen either. So you have 1 foot in, almost 1 foot out in a way. You're wearing multiple hats. So I'm really excited to talk about that. Today we'll be talking about the current state of the military, lessons learned while serving, active duty entrepreneurship, and the mindset behind existing in two worlds at the same time. I'm honored to be here with all of you today. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Richard McIntyre of McIntyreFirm.com, Chris Chrismistos of Podfest.us, and of course the amazing Anthony Kovic of the Tampa Post. So let's just jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about your time in the Air Force over the last 15 years, what you've learned, what made you join, what were some of the lessons, and give us a story of some leadership that's really stuck with you and helped you in your leadership style.
So I've been in the military for 15 years, of course, and I have absolutely enjoyed my past 15 years. Mm-hmm. I started in Montana, and I came from North Carolina, so it was a drastic change for me. So snow, wasn't a big fan of the snow, but I learned a lot of good skills. I learned how to be a disciplined airman, and I value that 100%. My time in the military, I started out as a cop, and now I'm a combat arms instructor. I'm a firearms instructor.
So you're actually, that's your job now?
Yes.
In the military?
In the military,
That's awesome.
I am a firearms instructor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then tell us a little story of leadership in the beginning of your career that really helped you become the leader that you are today as a Master Sergeant of Airmen.
Of course, regardless of where you work, you have good and bad leaders.
Yes.
So I have gained a lot from bad and a lot from good. I've had a few good leaders that have supported me regardless, and they've taught me how to be a skilled leader. So for that, I'm forever grateful, and it's taught me how to take care of the troops, and in turn, I've learned how to lead, which is invaluable.
It is. It's one thing to lead people, it's another thing to lead yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think that with the fact that you are in active duty military with all these people that rely on you, and even your higher ups that rely on you, but then at the same time, now you have this business where it's two different leadership styles. So, let's talk a little bit about the state of the military right now in 2018, because it's not very often we have an inside view of that. What's your opinion? What's it like right now? What's the sentiment? What's the culture? What's the morale? Like how are you seeing it?
So the ops tempo is still, it's still there. Mm-hmm. For me, I see that, of course, the age is changing. We have a lot of the younger troops who, you have to communicate a lot different now than you did previously. Yes. So it's changing, but I think it's changing in a good way.
Yes. Why do you say that?
Because we have to evolve with the current times, so we're changing. The leaders are, of course, taking care of us still, so it's great. Are
you increasing troops, or are you decreasing troops right now still? Because when I got out, we were trying to go. They were taking numbers down. So I went in on a 208,000 push in the Marine Corps, and then as soon as I hit like 2 years in, back down to 172, and they were just cutting people left and right.
I think we're going back to increasing our numbers. Okay. A few years back, they, of course, were decreasing.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about being a firearms instructor in the military. And I always said the Marine Corps is the only organization that can make shooting guns not fun. Safety's first, safety's paramount, and Absolutely. Marines can be stupid, so obviously it's Barney style every way. What's it like being in the Air Force, being an firearms instructor, and what has that done for you and your career?
Being a military firearms instructor, I absolutely have learned a lot. Mm-hmm. Not only are we in the Air Force, are we firearms instructors, but we're also gunsmiths.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we do everything in-house, and when it comes to our job, no, it's not fun, because we have to be very structured because it's safety,
Yes.
But it's been awesome.
You really enjoyed it?
I absolutely enjoy it.
So how many MOSs have you had? Have you gone right from being a cop, being an MP to firearms instructor? Mm-hmm. How long have you been a firearms instructor?
10 years.
10 years. Mm-hmm. Wow. That has to be fun. You just play with guns all day.
Yeah.
So what compelled you to become a firearms instructor 10 years ago? You're only 5 years in, so I'm guessing what, E4, E5?
So, funny story. Although I was a cop, I didn't have a lot of knowledge when it came to firearms, and it was when it became time to actually go to the range. It was never fun, and I didn't really know a lot about it. So I wanted to challenge myself. And so I figured what better way to challenge myself than to become a firearms instructor.
Okay, cool. So what's your favorite weapons to train people on, and what are your favorite weapons in the military to shoot? Because I know you shoot probably more fun weapons down at Skips, right?
So my favorite handgun is, of course, the Glock. And right now, the unit that I work at, we actually have the Glock 19.
Okay.
So I like to train people on handguns. Because handguns, that's something that we use in the military, and a lot of people use it for personal defense outside of the military as well.
Okay. So what's your favorite aspect of being a firearms instructor beyond what you would think, training, troops, this and that? There's got to be a reason you stuck to doing it for 10 years and then started a business around it.
So my favorite aspect of it is I know that I'm teaching people a skill that can absolutely save their lives.
Absolutely.
And I initially, I didn't really know much about firearms, but now I see how not only I can impact people within the military, but also outside of the military as well.
What's it like being a firearms instructor in the military, owning a firearm it's an instruction company, correct? So Skips Tactical Solutions is not only, is it a gun range?
No,
it's just teaching people how to properly use weapons. What's that like over the last 10 years, being with the sentiment in the country, with the Second Amendment, with the school shootings, with the mass shootings? Like, say after Las Vegas, nobody even talks about that anymore, where 500 people were killed. So what does that do for you in the position that you're in, both in the military and in the civilian side of it?
So on the military side of it, I know that I'm training people that are going down range, and I'm giving them a skill that can bring them back home to their families.
Okay.
In the military, we're pretty much all pro Second Amendment, so there's not really a lot of negativity behind that.
Okay.
Fast forward to the civilian side of it, it's a lot harder because you have two sides of it pretty much in the state of the United States right now. Either people are pro Second Amendment or they're anti Second Amendment.
Seems to be like every case right now.
Yes. So I'm trying to educate people on the Second Amendment and properly defending themselves, so that a lot of people are making uneducated decisions when it comes to firearms. So hopefully I can spread the positive side of it and actually educate them on how to properly handle it so that they won't be so intimidated.
So let's talk a little bit about Skips Tactical Solutions. Like, how did you come up with the idea? When did it start? What's your vision for it? Kind of give us a little overview of your company.
Okay, so I would say probably about 7 years ago, I would have people who would start to reach out to me within the community, and they would ask me, hey, can you train me? Hey, a lot of people see us in uniform and they say, what do you do? Do you fly airplanes? And I'm like, no, I'm a firearms instructor. And they're like, oh, you're a firearms instructor. So after years of people asking me to train them, after the Parkland shooting, which was really close to home, I actually have 2 children myself. Okay. So I was just compelled by my faith to actually get out and do something about it. Like, I want it to be a part of the change. Okay. So if we can properly arm more people, then we're going to actually be able to outnumber the bad guys. So
what is your opinion of the way Florida does its concealed and open carry training, with your 4 hours at the fairgrounds, and then you show them that you can load a weapon and then pretty much shoot 2 bullets and then you're good to carry a weapon in public? Do you think that suffices as enough training to carry a weapon, or do you believe that there should be a little more substantial education, some coursework, some classes, and maybe some ways to really make sure that these people know what they're doing with those weapons?
So I feel like, that's kind of twofold, because some states, they have classes that are like really intensive, and then some states they have it where it's not as intensive. You can teach someone how to shoot, they can do a 3 to 4 hour class And if they don't go out and do any additional training, that's something that you really can't control.
Sure.
So, you know, although, you know, in Texas it may be a more extensive class, that doesn't mean that they're actually going to be able to have the knowledge to be able to apply it when they actually need to apply it.
Okay.
So Florida, you know, I don't feel like they're too lax, but I do think that they have kind of, you know, we're headed in the right direction. But, you know, some states, they have more, some have less. But with Florida, I think we are kind of headed in the right direction.
Is that kind of what Skip's Tactical Solutions does? Is beyond educating, it truly gives those people a chance to really learn what they need to learn to feel comfortable carrying a weapon? Do you want to be kind of like the industry leader in that? Or what is your vision for Skip's Tactical Solutions?
So in my class, one of the very first things that I go over is the defensive mindset. You know, you have to have the right mindset. Not everyone's going to be able to actually defend themselves, you know, like, so I go over what are you willing to actually use your gun for? And a lot of people really don't think about that, you know, and it's like, if you freeze, then you may be killed, you know. So for my company, you know, I go over the mindset, and I highly encourage them to, this is just the beginning of your concealed carry firearms, and I need you to go out and actually get educated on how to do additional things. So a concealed carry class is just really the beginning. So go out and learn how to use your pistol and actually get very intimate with your pistol. Okay.
What are some of the services you offer through Skips? Is there different courses, different classes? Children? Do you teach children how to shoot? So tell us a little bit about what you offer.
Okay, so we offer the concealed carry class is kind of the basic course that we offer.
So you can get actually a concealed carry license through your.
So my class, you take my class, and at the end I issue your certificate, and then you still have to go down to the Department of Agriculture to do the rest of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do the concealed carry classes. I do intro to pistol courses, which you sit in the class, you learn how to actually operate your firearm, how to clean it, and then we go to the range and actually apply the skills that you've learned. So we do intro to pistol, intro to rifle. I do a gun cleaning workshop, which actually teaches you how to clean your firearm.
Yes, that's big.
Because, you know, if you don't know how to clean it, then
it's gonna work.
Yeah. So, we also do children's classes as well, because I feel like, you know, we need to educate our children, because not only will they be introduced to it outside of the home, but now it's being brought inside of our schools as well. So I need the children to know how to actually properly handle or to not handle at all.
Or how about even just be aware of what different guns sound like, what a gunshot sounds like? Do you teach active shooter drills?
I do not do the active shooter drills, because within some school systems they're actually teaching those drills. But, you know, a big thing is to just tell the children to don't touch, you know, find an adult.
Okay.
But I also want them to know what to do if they encounter a firearm at, say, a friend's house during a sleepover.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about both worlds you exist in, right? What are some of the things you've learned in the military that's transcribed over to your business and helped you become a better, more successful entrepreneur?
Discipline is definitely one of them. Not only do I have to be disciplined in my everyday job, you know, discipline to meet deadlines, discipline to actually structure my classes in the military how they need to be structured. That has went over into my civilian life as well. So I was disciplined enough to actually start a business, and to start the business the legal way, you know, and to actually be successful in getting students trained.
Okay. What are some of the obstacles you're faced with your business as of right now? Like, if anybody's watching this interview right now, how could they help bring you more value and help you succeed to that next level in your business? What do you need right now?
I think a big obstacle is marketing.
Yes, I was going to ask that question.
Because I initially had a pot of money saved up for startup, and I used that to pretty much invest into the proper equipment to train my students.
Okay.
I want to bring them the entire experience. So my initial pot of money went to that, and if I'm better able to market myself, then people could actually see what I have to offer, and to see that, you know, oh, this is a great experience, professional instructor, and they would be more apt to come and train with me.
I truly believe that, especially for veterans, because it's not something we ever really think about, is marketing. You know, everything is done, everything's discipline, operations, everything's getting the job done, accomplishing the mission. We don't really think about creating creating demand, generating demand for our services because we're serving the country. We already have the demand. So out here, I'm noticing a lot of veteran entrepreneurs struggle in that same aspect, military entrepreneurs, that it's figuring out the right messaging, knowing exactly how to talk to your audience, and knowing exactly how to demonstrate what it is you do and the value you have behind it in an enticing way through like storytelling and things like that. For the most part, most people who are in the military, veterans, still active duty, they don't really want to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have a feeling that's the same with you. And what I'm realizing is that if you design your brand around your story, but yet curtail it in a way that's about your audience, it's no longer about you, it's about who you serve.
Absolutely.
And it's just a better way of serving your audience because then they get to know who you are and build that trust. So I definitely think that I have plenty of resources for you that I think can help you with whatever you need. So it's exciting that we get to talk like this. This is business. I don't know. I talk business. I love it. So what are some of the unique obstacles right now beyond the marketing? Let's say with time, because it's not a 9-to-5 job being in the military. You know, I can only imagine you're probably still working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. So how do you balance the two between your full-time job? Because this is kind of what that is a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with their 9-to-5 and then trying to get their business on the background with that other 8 hours that they have before trying to sleep for 4 or 5. How are you balancing it all, and then also at the same time maintaining your mental health, maintaining your physical health, your emotional health? Because burning out is the #1 way to fail at everything.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So it's funny because I talk about this often. I feel like there's no 100% balance. You know, sometimes you have to do more on the back end of other things. For me, scheduling is paramount. I have children, so there's a certain time I have to wake up in the morning.
You're just an incredible human being.
With my children, my spouse as well. I ask for a lot of help from other people.
It's big.
Absolutely.
So big.
I have a team. As far as people that I lean on, you know, and I ask for advice, but I also have to learn when to cut certain things off. With social media, I would absolutely love to respond to every comment, but I can't, you know. So my time, my fitness, I know that if I do not have a good mental physical state, that I'll be able to serve not only my country, but my customers
Absolutely,
either.
Absolutely. So what do you do, and what are some things that you maintain your balance with? What are some outlets? Painting, dancing, creating something, going for a hike. What are some ways that keeps you sane? Being a mother of 2, a wife, a service member, and a business owner. That's a lot to juggle, and I'm really impressed with how you're able to. So I was just hard to just juggle my own life, and I can only imagine you're juggling so many people's lives because then you also have your troops that you got to take care of.
Absolutely.
So so what are some of the things you do to find your balance, or at the end of the day to decompress? How do you not bring your work home, or how do you not bring your work to your other job? So just talk to the audience a little bit about how you're able to maintain your drive through.
So for me, I'm definitely good at multitasking.
I see that.
I have to start my day with structure. I always start my day with giving thanks. You know, before I touch my phone, before I do anything, I have to stop and I have to ground myself. I was woken up today, you know, I have a new chance. So I always start with that. And then I have to start with physical fitness because that drives my day. And if I can really get a good workout in, then my mental state's going to be good for the day. So I start my day with a workout. I start with grounding myself. And then I talk to my kids. In the mornings when we go to school, we stop at the bus stop, we talk. There's no social media, there's no anything. And when I pick up my kids, we have our drive home that we focus on each other, you know. So I think it's very important that not only do I give my 9 to 5 its time, that I give my children the time, and then at the end of the night I close with my husband. We have our time. So we structure family time, we structure date night. So tonight we're going to do date night.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I think it's really key to make sure that you're trying to balance everything in, because if not, everything can fall very quickly.
Scheduling is everything.
Absolutely.
And that's funny, is one of my weaknesses is just scheduling it all out and sticking to it, you know, and just staying, you know, like this is the time for that, this is the time for this, because I'm squirrel, you know. So it's interesting to hear your story because it's given me ideas of how to better square away my life, and because you're right, everybody and everything deserves its time in that day, whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's 2 hours, whether it's 8 hours at a job. I think that we get distracted a lot by the noise of life and I get lost in futurescape thinking a lot, and that futurescape thinking I get overwhelmed, anxiety, and then anxiety I start to fall down by just focusing on what I need to get done today, getting it done, and then still having that time for me at the end of the day. Like, do you have any time for yourself, or is that your morning basically with your thanks and your workout?
I always take my time on my way to work and on my way home. I listen to podcasts.
Okay.
So I take that time to learn new ideas, learn new skills, and then at the end of my day, I try to stop, read a book. I try to stop and give myself some time. I like to pretty much regurgitate everything onto a piece of paper so that it's out of my mind, and the next day I can start fresh and I know what my key points are and then what can maybe wait till the end of the week, but it's not really heavy on my mind.
Okay, that's something that I'm trying to incorporate as well, is brain dumping. I try to hold it all up there, try to hold it all up here, and then eventually you don't know what's left and right and up and down. So that's a really good piece of advice. That's, really follow that. At the end of the day, whatever you got going on in your head, if you can't sleep, write it all down. Yep. And then you're good. You're at peace with yourself. And then in the morning, you can look at that. And when my buddy went a step further, and he goes, whatever you can automate, delegate, or eliminate, go through what you went through the night before and figure out what categories they'll go into, and just organize yourself. So that's really good advice. That's a nugget right there. Being a female in not only a male-dominated world, which is the military, but a male-dominated MOS, which is firearms instructing, and then a male-dominated business or industry, how have you been able to not only succeed but flourish in all three of those in places that a lot of people have not found success?
I credit myself with having a very unique teaching style.
Okay.
Not only am I a mother, so women kind of have a motherly aspect, I know how to talk to my students. Being a woman, I know how it may feel to not really be skilled at something and maybe have people talk down to you.
Okay.
So not only do I talk to women a certain way, but I talk to everyone a certain way so that they can feel more comfortable with me versus someone else that they feel may be judging them.
Yes. I think that's huge too, because in the military it's all just games and mental anguish, and I always found those leaders that didn't have to do that they just commanded presence and they just commanded respect because they showed everybody respect.
Absolutely.
Like, I had this one leader, his name was Corporal Thrailkill, ended up becoming Sergeant Thrailkill, and every single one of the Marines respected him because he treated every person like a person. But then you have those other Marines that were just knife hands in your face, and we respected them too because of their intensity and their passion, and so it's just weird how some people can figure out their perfect leadership style and be able to apply it and flourish with that. So that's very interesting, and coming from your point is that you're not trying to be anything you're not. You're your authentic self, which is, yes, you treat everybody the same, you treat everybody with mutual respect, you communicate, and yet you still have that motherly side, which I'm sure you probably always had, which actually benefits you. You don't think of that as a weakness, you think of that as a strength, which compassion and empathy can go a long way, especially in the military when it's all about brute, just intensity and aggression. And so back, at home, if you're a caring person, if you're empathetic, if you're compassionate, don't run away from that. Embrace that aspect of yourself and use it as a tool. And I'm sure you've had to put some foot up some asses a couple times and get in some faces.
That's the other unique part of it.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about when, either with students at Skips or students in the Air Force, that challenged you because you were a woman and because you were nice and respectful and compassionate. They kind of try to take advantage of that, and then all of a sudden the facade comes off and you're like, oh wait, now we're going to handle this. So how do you deal with those types of people that kind of don't give you the benefit of the doubt in the beginning?
So when it comes to my military career, it's always a aspect of positional power. When I'm running a range, I'm in a position, and you have to listen to me. And if you don't listen to me, then you're gone.
Did you ever body slam anybody? Just listen to me.
I've not,
right.
Hopefully it'll never have to come to that, But when it comes to my position, I'm just in a position to where you have to listen to me. And if you don't want to listen, then I will de-arm you and you have to leave.
Okay.
When it comes to Skips, also kind of on the military side as well, it gets to a point to where if you don't want to listen to me, you're just going to have to learn the hard way. And if you think you know what you're talking about and you don't know, then you're going to come back and you're going to ask me for help. Then I'm going to remind you, that I initially tried to help you. Yeah. So, and then in the skips world, I've had to where people will say, no, I want to learn from that man. And you can want to learn from that man, but at a certain point in time, you should look at a resume. And when you look at my resume, you're going to want to learn from me. You're not going to want to learn from him,
Absolutely.
So a lot of times people will judge a book by its cover, and I'm fine with them doing that, but read my resume and give me the benefit of the doubt, and then I can show you what I can do. You
seem to stay very cool, calm, and collected. You don't seem to get very flustered. Is that true, or is it hit or miss, depending on the day?
No, I've learned to know what my value is.
Okay.
And I try to not let a lot of people get me out of my element. I don't want anyone else to control my emotions.
Absolutely.
I want to have control over my emotions.
Mm-hmm. And nothing worse than a hot-headed firearms instructor. Not a fan. So being that you've seen others separate from the Air Force, and it's coming at one point or another, whether you do 25, whether you do 20, 25, 30. How's that looking for you right now? What are you preparing already? Are you mentally preparing? Are you talking to advisors and mentors about their transition? Are you concerned at all? Like, what is the sentiment right now in the Air Force about transitioning out of the military in 2018?
Well, I would like to say when it comes to transition, I don't think that we get enough preparation for it.
Absolutely not.
Once you're a couple years out, then they recommend that you start going to TAPS. But I really feel like this is something that we need to be preparing for.
Day one.
Like initially, midpoint. And I've already hit past 10 years. I'm a lifer. I will do 20 years and retire. I'm mentally preparing for my separation.
Yes.
And that's another reason why I started Skips, is because I want to go ahead and start now.
Smart.
But
because it takes about 5 years for a company to really get going. And if you could survive 5 years doing the same thing, you'll be successful in anything you do. I was told that by a mentor before. And so you're doing all the hard work now. And when you retire, you get that retirement check, get that disability, have your GI Bill, and then you have a company that's been around 6 years already, have your team, have everything in place, and you're just kind of cruising at the end. That's really, really smart. What made you decide, what kind of put that bug in your ear? What kind of really made you start thinking, I got to start really planning for the end of this because it's coming whether I want it to do or not?
I know that you can really only count on today, right? And so anything can happen. Like I could be injured and I have to separate from the military. So I just mentally wanted to prepare myself to when I needed to transition to be ready for my transition. Okay. You can never be fully ready, but I wanted to financially never be in a position to where either I struggled or my kids had to see me struggle. And then with my husband, we're both active duty.
Wow.
So for us, I will transition before him. He's a year behind me. Okay. So we're planning our transition, therefore it will not be rocky.
Yes, that's such a proactive approach to it, and it's harder for those people that only did 4 or 5 years because they didn't really get a chance to see people get out. They didn't really get a chance to hear the stories, and at that point you're not really thinking about that. You're thinking about the mission at hand, the objective, and how much life is kind of hard, Is there any resources that you've leveraged inside the military right now to help you either with your business, help you with any aspect of your personal self? Is there anything that they're developing right now that's going to help you transition in the next 5 to 10 years?
So the unit that I'm currently in, we do a lot of professional development.
That's smart.
So a lot of people don't look at the professional development part of it as something that you can use in your civilian life as well. Mm-hmm. So they teach us how to be great leaders within the military, and they teach us some really great skills on time management, but those are things that can be used on the outside. And I also have a lot of training resources. So any additional schools that I can go to just hone in on my skills as a firearms instructor, those are things that I do as well.
Excellent. So how has starting a business in the civilian sector afforded you the experience to become a better troop leader? Because now we talked about how your leadership in the military helped your business, but how is being an entrepreneur now improving you with how you lead your troops in the military?
So in the military, a lot of things are very structured. In the civilian life, it's not really structured.
It's chaos.
So I've learned how to take those skills, and I'll only use those with the civilians that I'm working with. And I can also take those things back to my troops and teach them how to deal with civilians as well, and help them with their transitions.
Are you preparing any of your troops right now for transition?
I am.
So you're active in that?
I'm very active
awesome.
in letting people know that I call it side hustling. It's a valuable skill. If you have a skill that can be used on the outside, which everyone in the military has a skill that translates to the outside world, you need to be finding out how you can use that for your transition.
How do you get your younger troops to kind of move past the mentality of, every weekend's your last weekend, party, and really get them to start kind of thinking about their future, really get them to start thinking about making the right decisions now to set themselves up for success later? Is that active in kind of your mentoring, and how are you really able to get through to them? Because that's all I really worried about when I was in was, let me get to Friday. I had really good leaders. I had a bunch of leaders that made my career. I had a great career, but I did not prepare. I prepared for the transition a year out. I knew that it was coming. I started thinking a year and a half out what I wanted to do. I started preparing, researching, but it wasn't even close to being prepared. Really, I thought I was, and then after about 4 months of being out, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on anymore. So how are you preparing your troops right now that are looking to get out or looking to change MOSs, or what are some of the lessons that you're trying to invoke into them?
What's really key is to put it into terms that's relatable to them. If someone has a family, you need to put it into terms that they can relate to with their family. If they're single, then what are their goals? So you really need to learn what their goals are so that you can put it into terms that are really going to hit home with them. But a lot of people, they really won't think about those things. But I like for people to learn from my mistakes. I'm very open about some mistakes that I've made.
Failures make you.
Absolutely. So they can learn from my mistakes and not make those same mistakes.
Absolutely. So what's some of the mindset overhauling you've done over the last 15 years, going from, green behind the ears, boot on the ground, to now a mass sergeant, a firearms instructor, and an entrepreneur? How have you continuously learned? What are some of the podcasts you listen to? What are some of the books you've read? How are you growing as an individual internally to make and manifest your external successfully?
Think and Grow Rich.
Great book.
Great book. Yeah. I just read that one. Gary Vee.
Yes. Crushing it.
Yes. Love that one as well. And I've just learned to value myself. And in the military, we don't talk about ourselves a lot. A lot of people struggle with actually writing down an awards package what they've done. So I had a mentor tell me, you're going to have to talk about yourself. And I'm like, but I don't want to, So really learning what your value is, what you have to offer. And over the years, I've just really honed in on who I am, and I've become confident in myself. I know that I'm not a manly butch gun chick. That's not me. I'm not a gun nut either, So
you just actually like the aspect of weapons, the firing weapons, the self-protection, the foundation of what it is.
Absolutely. And I've learned that you're not always going to have someone else around. So for the average person, the cops are how far away? And I want to teach them that you can be your own first responder.
Yeah. I love that. I really do, because I find it very important. I'm not big into guns myself. I love shooting them in the military, but even, like I said, the Marine Corps even makes that terrible. So, I'm shooting a machine gun and I'm enjoying it, but the only time you're enjoying it is when you're pulling the trigger. The rest of it's just a mess, you know? But what I do like is I like being prepared. And so now I do martial arts to prepare myself for anything. I like the idea of being able to handle myself physically. And it's actually found a lot of balance in my life. Do you guys train any of that? Do you train hand-to-hand combat at all? Do you do anything with self-defense beyond just weapons training? Is that something that Skip's interested in being able to provide later on down the road?
I would like to be able to partner with someone to later down the road offer that, because maybe if your gun is dropped or you just don't have your gun with you that day,
or you pull it and it gets blocked.
Yep.
Exactly.
You need to know how to properly defend yourself.
Absolutely. That'd be some interesting stuff, definitely. As the time goes on, I'm definitely going to start going back into weapons training. I think it's very important. Beyond just anything, you know. So anything you can find to help yourself is big as well. I usually ask veterans this. This is the last question I usually ask everybody, and what's a sage piece of advice you give to a veteran who's transitioning? You're not a veteran yet. You're going to be, but right now you're a master sergeant in the United States Air Force, which, again, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Incredible. So that now that you have another 5 to go, that you're setting yourself up for success, you're already in that transition mindset, preparing yourself, what would you tell your troops or somebody who's preparing to get out right now on how to have a smoother transition and kind of avoid a lot of the issues you're seeing the veterans out here that are going through? So what are you seeing from the other end that veterans or that military personnel aren't doing that they could do better so that they're not struggling out in civilian life as much?
Take advantage of every resource that is available for you.
Yes.
When it comes to certifications, education, those things are at our fingertips, and a lot of people are not using them until it's not really too late. But once you've transitioned, you know, you could already have a bachelor's degree or you could already have a certification, but any opportunity that is there, professional development, certifications, take advantage of it right now.
Absolutely. I'd like to thank you so much for coming on the show today.
You.
So much valuable information there. Again, we're live at the Attic Cafe in downtown Tampa. I'd like to thank everybody at home for watching episode 26 with us. Master Sergeant Avery Skipalis of the United States Air Force, current founder and CEO of Skips Tactical Solutions. How can we find you?
You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Skips Tactical Solutions, or head over to my website, which is skipstacticalsolutions.com.
Thank you, everybody at home, for this wonderful edition. It's another beautiful day in downtown Tampa. I'd like to thank my amazing producer, Anthony Kovic, for hosting us today, the Attic Cafe, Chris Chrismistos of podfest.us, and, of course, Richard McIntyre of McIntyreFirm.com. You all have a great evening. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.